Hi, welcome to another Terranscapes mini review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Balsa Foam from American Foam Technologies. So here's a little overview of Balsa Foam. I've been wanting to do a review of Balsa Foam for quite some time. I'd only had experience with Balsa Foam 1, and I kept putting it off and I'm glad I did, because by fortune I was contacted by American Foam Technologies, who wanted my input on Balsa Foam in the terrain market. And we exchanged some ideas, and we had a discussion, and then they offered to send me some samples. So I was super jazzed because I had never used Balsa Foam 2, and they revealed that there is a Balsa Foam 3 that I didn't even know. So before I get to that though, what are we looking at? Balsa Foam is a rigid phenolic foam. So it's really like a plastic foam, all right? It's very rigid, and it's really designed for carving or taking impressions. It's made for art. It's available in 3 different densities. So there's Balsa Foam 1, which is a 5 pound per cubic foot density. Balsa Foam 2, which is the 10 pound per cubic feet. And then there's Balsa Foam 3, which is 20 pounds per cubic feet. And these affect the density of it, I mean, obviously numerically, but you really perceive that difference when you're working with each of these materials. Right before I move on into how I've used them, can I just say one thing, and I'm going to actually ask American Foam Technologies about this just in case they don't watch this video. I really wish they would have a separate color for each of the foams. As you're looking at them here, you say, oh, but there is, right? This is bright yellow, this is Balsa Foam 3. And the colors are not consistent. They sent me a sample pack, like I said. Wait a minute. So let me see here. Balsa Foam 3, am I crazy? Are they all the same color? They're not, though. Wait a minute. He digs in his box more. So see, this is Balsa Foam 2, and it's not really that color, and it's not really that color. And so I have really been struggling to keep these sorted once the packaging comes off, which is what? Now you can tell, that the 3 is really soft compared to the 10 for the 20 for sure. Okay, let me start that again. The 5 pound, which is the 1, you can separate that from the 3 very easily. But the 10 pound, the Balsa Foam 2, it's a little harder to tell from the 3 without, really playing with it. And it'd be nice to just be at a glance like yellow, orange, red, or, something. I mean, red would be a little strong and bright yellow is not right, but you get the idea that I'm looking for here. Maybe darker shades as they move up in density, right? So this is always light. This is Balsa Foam 2 would be this color. Balsa Foam 3 would always be this color. That idea. All right, moving on from that, however, what can these materials do? All right, I thought about how to do this, and now I'm already changing my mind. Let me just show you the material first straight up. So it is a well, it's like carving into sandstone. That's a great way to describe it. So, this is a really soft material, right? You can dig it out really easily. Now this is Balsa Foam 1, so this is the lowest density, all right? So if you wanted to, right, you could create whatever texture you wanted in there. But one thing to note, and this is an aside, which wasn't in my notes, is that it produces a lot of dust, and the dust is pretty irritating to the eyes. There have been a couple times where I've had it on my fingers and I wasn't paying attention and I rubbed my eye, and that was pretty irritating. I mean, I didn't go blind, but it felt a little rough. So you want to kind of be aware of dust management when you work with this. I don't think it's a big inhalation hazard because the dust doesn't get into the air too easily. But if you're going to be doing a lot of work and you're going to be putting a lot of dust in the air, I definitely would wear a dust mask. And I don't say that very often, so that says something. But I work with it many, many times without a dust mask or a fan. I just, am working with it, and when I make a little bit of dust, I'm just careful to bring it over to the trash and knock it off without, blowing it into the air. So it's easy to carve. The other thing that it's really good for is taking impressions. So you can just, press in your pattern, and you could carve in. I'm going to show you. I did some bricks and I did some cobblestone. So it's a material that doesn't have any memory. That's the way to describe it, right? It just. Oh gosh, is that going to show? I'm like, if I come up too close, it's going to be out of focus. There we go. All right, there you go. You can see those impressions, right? It's probably going to look better when I edit it, but I just want to make sure. So it's really an interesting material for having the flexibility of carving or leaving impressions. I mean, you could just, right, if I just drag it, I'm going to get both a compression and a carve, right? And look at how easy that made that big deep trough. So really, really interesting material. Can't say enough about it. I was intrigued when I first discovered it, and I'm even more intrigued now the more I work with it. So what have I done? Couple things about it, and then I'll show you what I've done with it. One, it's very easy to cut with a scroll saw. I had a lot of trouble trying to cut regular strips because I didn't have a bandsaw, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I forgot I have a scroll saw, which I don't ever use, so now I'm using it. And I just made a makeshift fence, and then I could just run it right through. I use a spiral blade, where it doesn't have teeth, and it just goes through it just like butter. It's beautiful how easy it cuts. The only problem with the scroll saw, right, is it only has a height of about that, which is only like 3.5 inches or so. So if you want to cut big sheets, you're going to need something like a bandsaw if you're going to get, really nice uniform strips out of it, or thin sheets. And that was really one of my goals. That's why I actually asked them to send me some examples of some thin sheets so I could play with that idea, because I was having trouble cutting them myself. But still, I couldn't cut this entire size sheet on my scroll saw. So clearly, that's something to consider depending on the scale of the project you want to work on. The other thing that I wanted to try with it is I wanted to lathe it. In fact, this is part of my setting up for that. So I'm not going to talk about my lathe. I made a makeshift lathe, and the word makeshift is the most important part of the description of that. But I was able to turn some, and just to give you a sense of what that turning looked like, it's a very, very easy material to remove material from. So it's quick to get down to, whatever shape you want. And I'm doing this through basically sanding. I'm using like a needle file, and instead of trying to chip out bits like on a normal lathe, right, I'm just wearing it away. And so it's got a really, really easy workability as a lathing material. However, two caveats. One, it's extremely soft, and I'm going to show you a hardening idea on it, but you have to harden the ends for the collet and the tail spindle. I think those are the right terms, because otherwise the tail spindle was just, my tail spindle, I'm not going to talk about it. It was just, crushing into it, and then it would just be loose. So you really need to reinforce these ends before you insert them before you insert the spindle into it, to make sure it has a firm connection. The second thing that's a little bit of an issue is it's flexible. Now this is, see, I can't tell anymore. I want to say this is the Balsa Foam 2. I'm pretty confident of that. and it's still got a little, let's see if I can see that flex. So when you're applying pressure on an area, right, it starts deforming and it gets a little, you know. So it's a, you know, I'm not a lathe man, I'm not an expert at all. So I just wanted to really give you an example and show you what the possibilities are. You can take that wherever you would like to. So I just mentioned reinforcing it, and one of the interesting properties of balsa foam is that it is basically like a sponge. And all right, I'm gonna try a close-up here for a second here. Let's just try this. I think that's in focus. I'm trying some new techniques with my new monitor here, so if it's not in focus, forgive me. Hopefully it's close enough though that you can see that it has a porous texture, porous construction, and so the pores, you know, really help it absorb liquids, which is great if you want, whoa, hey, hitting the camera. If you want to, you know, soak materials into it to harden it, but it also creates a little bit of a texture issue. If you're looking for a very, very smooth surface, it's going to require some filling. What I have found is that when you sand it, the sanding dust fills those, and if you don't remove that, then you could coat it with a material to seal it, and then it would act as it's pretty much filled. It's not going to be glass smooth, right? If you wanted that, you're going to have to do some more work, but it's a quick idea for how to compensate for some of the bubbles that are in it. And on that note, in the past, what I've noticed is that super glue will soak it up, and it will soak it up, and it gets rock hard. And when I was talking to the representatives from American Foam, they were mentioning that there's an artist who uses, you know, like a varnish or a shellac, and so I thought I would try that out. And so what I did is I just dipped this section into the polyurethane varnish can that I have here in the shop, and I thought then, I haven't even tested this myself yet, but I thought then we could maybe just see as a little comparison how that durability changes. So as I don't know if you can, can you feel that difference? I don't know if you can see it, but it's, well, to be honest, I don't know if that's entirely cured, you know, the varnish that is, but I'd say it's, you know, like, it's almost actually like moving it from Balsa Foam 2 to Balsa Foam 3. It feels like it doubles its density, and that's just with a single dip. If I did another dip over it, then I really think it would be incredibly hard. So it is a material that once you're done with, you can reinforce to increase its strength, say for durability, for handling or something like that. So, actually, how's that? Can you see the flex different? No, I guess it seems like it flexes the same amount. It does have some flexing, but only in thin sheets, right? So you have to think about it that way. All right, enough blabbering about it. What have I been trying to do with it? All right, so I put my Sorcerer's Fortified study on hold because I wanted to take up this project, which is to make hobbit homes for a diorama for my wife for her classroom using 15mm hobbits. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? So I thought this is a great chance to use this material, so I tried to use it in two different ways. The first was to actually take the sheet and then remove the entire material down and leave, you know, the windows and the doors revealed and the wood. A little time consuming, partly because it's just a lot of, you know, edge work, but it's doable. And it, when I got to the bottom here, I ended up, you know, sort of impressing in the edges for this cobblestone. And then later I added just a little texture to the stones themselves. I think it's going to look great when they paint up. All right, I'm going to pretend that I know how to do manual focusing with my camera. So let's pretend that I know what I'm doing. All right, now my monitor says I have a shot of that being in focus. All right, I'm going to learn more. Hopefully you get a little sense of that. And on this side, I decided to do basically the opposite, which was to build up from, okay, forgive me if this is all focus wonky here. I am going to play with it and I want to see how it comes out in the end. All right, we're going to see. Hopefully you get a sense of it though. So what I did is I carved in and pressed in the bricks using a micro screwdriver. And it really takes those lines really, really well. And then I cut strips. I think this is Balsa Foam 3 because I wanted to do very fine wood grain, and I thought the durability of the material, the higher density, would allow me to have small ridges close to each other without them breaking. That was one of the issues that I had when I was originally working on the Sorcerer's Fortified Tower, is that when I was doing the wood grain in Balsa Foam 1, it was soft and some of those ridges would break off too easily. So I feel like having the assortment of densities gives me a chance to play with them for different effects, and I do think that it's useful to consider what the texture end result is going to look like and what material is going to capture it, which one of these densities will capture it the best. And of course there's ease of carving, right? It's like butter going through this, and it's not like butter going through Balsa Foam 3. So, I don't know. I tried to cover a lot, and there's a lot that could be said. So hopefully some of this is, of use to you. And, I will be showing you, and I'll mention this in the end, I will be showing you work that I do, not only on this project, but on others using Balsa Foam going forward. So expect to hear more from me on that then. So hopefully that gives you some idea of Balsa Foam and what you can do with it, and how there's different varieties. So just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, I just wanted to talk a little bit about its pricing and its availability. Balsa Foam, as I said, comes in 3 different densities, and you can currently, I wonder if I dented it, you can currently only purchase 2 of them on the open market. I don't know, for lack of a better term. I usually recommend people go to Dick Blick to buy Balsa Foam. dickblick.com, very popular art online store, and they have Balsa Foam 1 and Balsa Foam 2, but they do not have 3 in their catalog, and I'm not entirely sure why. And when I spoke to American Foam Technologies, I did mention, what, you have a 20-pound density, Balsa Foam 3? Why do I know about this, So I don't know if maybe they're going to have a change for that in the future, but of course you can contact them directly, should you be interested in that product. You can't find it anywhere else. So pricing for Balsa Foam is, I don't want to say it's tricky, but it's not easy to answer, because if that was a question, because it's sold in a variety of sizes. You can get blocks, or you can get sheets, or and each one it has its own sort of pricing. The general idea, though, is that if your blocks get bigger and bigger, the cost per cubic inch goes down. So I'm going to tell you the pricing per cubic inch, which would be a little chunk here, okay? And then it gives you at least an idea, depending on how big you want to buy. So it's about 10 cents a cubic inch for Balsa Foam 1. So a sheet like this would be about, I think, around $7. That's my best guess. In Balsa Foam 2, all right, the same sheet would be about $10. It's about 13 cents per cubic inch. And I can't get you pricing on Balsa Foam 3 because I don't know anybody who retails it. And of course, the samples I was sent didn't have a price tag attached to them. So I'm going to guess, based on that progression, that's going to be somewhere around 15, maybe 18 cents a cubic inch. So a sheet like this might go for, say, $12. It's hard to say whether Balsa Foam is a good value or not, because it doesn't compare to anything else, really. It's a pretty unique product, and I think the pricing is fair for what you're getting. You know, but of course it can get expensive if you're going to buy really big blocks. So it depends on what your budget is. But it offers some really unique properties, and it's something you're going to definitely be seeing me using more in some upcoming projects, and in larger scale as well. So I'm behind it. But don't get me wrong, you know, that I was sent these samples for free, but these opinions are definitely my own. And if I didn't like it, I wouldn't recommend it. But it has the caveats. It's not a material that solves all problems, all right? It's just one more thing to have in the kit to help you get through different projects in different ways. I think that's it. So questions and comments, feel free to leave them down below. If you are new to the channel or you've been recently watching videos, you might be wondering, does he always wear that shirt when he shoots videos? Huh? Bertrand Russell. The answer is no, but I am trying now to shoot videos in blocks and then edit them and upload them when I get a chance, rather than having to set up all this gear for each individual video. So I'm shooting a bunch today. You get Bertrand for a few videos. Next block, I don't know. So I just thought I'd put that out there in case you think I was really crazy. I mean, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. So thanks for joining me. Always appreciate it, and hopefully you will come back soon and join me, because you know I'll be back soon with another Terranscapes video. From, you know, the best I can kind of calculate, think of it as it's about 10 cents a cubic inch for Balsa Foam 1, 10 cents, okay.